a new interview with creatives and artists and designers all over the world. Today we have a wonderful guest, Monica Filipina. She is an author and an illustrator of children's books. She published many books as illustrator and author, and it's really amazing how she works with characters and how she can create a wonderful magical story full of different creatures, very lovely and very friendly for children. So today we will talk about how to create a book from the very first sketch and idea, and then how to publish this book, how not only to draw it and to illustrate, but also how to make it real, how to find publishing house or maybe publish it by yourself, and what challenges are in the industry of illustration. Also, we'll talk about this. And if you want to get all these takeaways if you want to get all of these highlights into your inbox, just subscribe on the to the newsletter. The link is in the bio or in the description of the video, and you will get all the best tips of this live in your inbox. And I see the request. Yeah, hi Monica. We will be happy to answer them. So anything connected with children's illustration, any questions you might have, maybe only starting your career or already experienced. Hi, Monica.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
I thought I did something wrong. I couldn't find, I started to stress it's not going to work.
No, everything is fine. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you very well. I'm actually going to turn it down a little. Okay.
Wonderful. So happy to see you.
Yeah, and I'm very glad to see you. And I'm really happy that you actually contacted me and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I'm amazed. You published so many books. Actually, when I was scrolling on your website, there's a list of
Yes.
books, really big one, huge.
Yes, there's a lot of them. Yes. Yeah, there's lots of them. Some of I don't think they're all on the website because I don't think I've put my first projects on there. But I've been following you for years now, and I'm amazed by your patterns and
Thank you so
your
much.
the colors. They're so beautiful. Like every sketchbook, it's like a piece of art. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So nice to hear. Thank you so much. But let's talk about you today, okay? Oh, of course,
Okay,
you can
thanks.
ask questions if you want, but today the topic is children's book illustration, and I have no experience in this field,
Okay.
so you're the expert now in these topics. So let's start with the beginning, a little bit about your artistic background and how did you come to children's illustration? What was the first
Wait,
steps? Or?
yeah, I always loved to draw. Well, since I was very little, I could be left with pencils and I could be alone and I was busy with myself and just drawing all the time. And I remember this moment when I was looking at some children's book as a little girl and asked my mom, who did these drawings? How did this happen that they are actually in the book? And that was the first time that I thought about there's a creator behind drawings in the books that I'm getting. I even wanted to write a letter to one of those illustrators. I remember that I didn't do this in the end, but
That's so sweet.
yes, but I wanted to, what do I have to do to become a children's book illustrator? But I was very little then. I did art during my primary school and then high school. But I didn't apply for art university in Poland because I kind of stopped believing in myself. It was this time of, I decided I'm not going to make it, I'm not good enough. So I kind of quit and I went to university to study subjects that I didn't enjoy. And I did politics and Polish language, and it wasn't my, my best choice. Um, and in the end, I moved to Scotland for work for about 3 months, and over there I decided I will go back to college and see, I'll go back to drawing, and I went to art. It was live drawing classes, and I met an illustrator there who told me, "Look, come on, you can go and study illustration. You should try." And that's how I went to university in England. I chose Wolverhampton University because my cousin studied there. So it was easier, I had someone to help me and guide me around the city and help me find a place to stay. Um, so yeah, that's how I began with actual illustration.
Was it scary to try it, to kind of give yourself permission? Okay, I can study illustration, not from.
I remember that I didn't really, I wasn't really thinking. I wasn't thinking that I'm gonna get to the university. I thought I'm gonna try. I'll see what's gonna happen. If it happens, I will see what will I do. And even from Scotland, I actually moved to Poland. I applied for university, and after I think 1 or 2 months in Poland, I moved back to UK to to university. So I was so I wasn't really thinking that it's going to happen. So when it happened, it was like, wow, I'm here. I'm in a place that I really wanted to be years ago. It kind of happened naturally. Yeah.
You have such a wonderful, lovely, and kind style, artistic style in illustration.
Thank you.
Can you remember how did you form it? How did you shape it? I mean that at the beginning, what were you
At
drawing
the
like?
beginning, it was completely different. I went through very different stages of drawing because it definitely wasn't soft at the beginning. When I was doing my BA, I was experimenting with media a lot. I loved collage. I loved, lots of black splashes of paint. And because it wasn't just children's book illustration that I studied, it was generally illustration. We did posters, we did printing. I could explore the things that I enjoyed most in illustrations. And it was throughout my career when I started actually, sending my work to publishers, to agents, that I got some advice, try to soften it a bit, maybe try this. And I started, exploring different ways of working. And basically, I don't think this ever stops because, we always grow as artists. So with every drawing is slightly different than the previous one. So it's always a process.
And what helped you? What was the main things that helped you to find this artistic style? Was it experimenting? Did you experiment a lot, or I don't know, just made some research?
I actually think that it's just my inner child talking through the art, I didn't really think about whether I should choose this kind of illustration or this kind of illustration. When I started drawing, when we were working on children's projects, I knew, yes, that's the thing I want to do. That's the thing I feel most confident in. I don't have to think how I want this artwork to look. I don't have to, analyze everything. It's just natural. So a lot of the stuff that I do is I think I make it unconsciously, if you know what I mean. It doesn't come from thinking, it comes from just feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Can you please walk us through your creative process? How do you create a book, maybe an illustration first, from the first ideas, sketches?
Yeah, it always starts from well, when it's a character, it involves characters. So it usually starts from just a character drawing. Even when I create my own book idea, the character comes first. It usually starts with a small drawing in a sketchbook, and then it comes to life. I start thinking, oh, how did he happen to be here? What he did before? What he's like? What he's if he's kind, or what does he like? What does he do? And things like that. It always starts from the characters. I even did some. I'm actually working on a new book right now for a publisher in the US, and I just did some character drawings because they always ask me to do that before going to sketches. It's going to be our fourth book in a series, and so I can show you how the
So cool.
process starts. It's just
So
lots of small
cute.
drawings.
So cute. So beautiful.
And then I go to sketches, which I always think are gonna take much less time than they actually do, because I always forget how much thinking it involves to actually decide what's gonna be where on the page, and how certain positions are gonna be on this page and things like that. I think it's the most difficult part of the whole process, because then when you do the painting, you already know everything. You generally have everything in your head already, because when you do the sketches, your brain automatically decides how it's going to look in the end. So the last part, though it takes a long time to color, it's not the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this layout, how it looks on the spread,
Yes,
this part takes.
Yes, I think that's the difficult one. And also, making a setup, because you have to think what's behind the character. Is it going to be a room, or is it going to be outside? Is there lots of things happening behind? Or, it involves quite a bit of planning. And that can be tricky sometimes.
And
And
do you have?
also,
Yeah, sorry.
that's okay. And also, when you do the sketches, there you get the revisions from the publisher. So then it's also a lot of time to incorporate the revisions and change the sketches. So yes, that's the toughest part, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And how does the task? How does it sound? Like how does it sound? Create a story about muffin, or, or do you read the
Well,
story? How do
yes,
you decide how this character
well,
look, and what are the
yes, you get
scenes?
usually you get the brief from the publisher, and it's quite specific. You get the text, and then you get the brief, how they would like to, how they imagine this book, what technique they would like me to use, what's going to be the target group. Well, not always, but sometimes they already have a specific target.
What
And
age, right?
what age, but also, for example, that I recently did some illustrations for a book that's for grandparents. That grandparents are going to buy it as a gift for their grandchildren. So that's also, a slightly different target. And also, you sometimes when you get, I have it here, but it's very messy because I work on here. So I have a page where I have the text, and here I have a little note from the editor saying what they imagine on this page, or what I can draw on this page. I don't always have to. I can, if I have a different vision, I can do it the way I want to. But generally, yes, I like to have as much information from the publisher as possible, because then it saves me changing illustrations many times, because sometimes you get so many revisions, it's just not the same artwork anymore. So yeah.
Do they give you the limit of the pages?
Yes, yes, you always know like the dimensions of the book, the number of pages. These are the details that you have to know before you start working, and also how many spreads, which pages are actually just single pages drawings, and what pages are going to be double spread drawings and things like that.
And when you work on the first stage on the character, which is, as you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
like the main part in the
Yeah.
beginning, is it hard to invent a new character because there are so many children's books, so many characters, so many cartoons, and or
Yes.
you don't have to create a new one and it can remind another character, and so it's okay.
Yes, I have. It's a bit difficult sometimes. Usually I make different characters, and then I choose the one that's the most, that's the best one, that's the nicest one that I like the most. I had this book one. I illustrated a book about a wolf and a rabbit, and then a couple of years later, I illustrated a book that involved wolf as well. And in the end, I had to change the wolf throughout the whole book because it was too similar to the one from the book before. So that can be tricky because you have to keep that in mind. It's your own style, it's your own way of drawing. So the characters are going to be a little bit similar, but then there also you sign the agreement that you will not use the same drawings in another book. It's copyright. So I had to change this wolf on every page for that other project, so there's no mistake.
That's really interesting. And what helps you to work on this character? Do you write any description on how she loves to spend time? What mood they have at the moment, or I don't know. Maybe you describe something like what was happening in the past, in the future, or you just more intuitively, and you don't.
I do it intuitively, but also I keep in mind what is this character? If it's is it shy, or is it outgoing? Is it quiet? Is it loud? Is it scared? Because these are the things that I usually show in illustrations, the emotions of the characters. So when you draw it's always going to have some kind of characteristics that show emotion, the face, the eyes, and things like that, and the gestures.
Maybe can you recommend any some practices that can help beginner illustrators to study how to express, how to draw the emotions? Because I suppose it's a very important topic for illustrator, especially for children's illustration, to draw these emotions very clearly, that this character is a good one, this is this one is bad, this is
okay. So the gesture is very important when you draw, because it also expresses you're scared, you're shy, and things like that. And what I do sometimes, which you are probably gonna laugh, is that when I try to draw something, what would I do if I felt this way, and I make this with my hands, and then I know how to draw it.
So you may make
So
reference by yourself.
by
Yeah.
myself. Yes, I'm my
Yeah,
own
yeah.
reference for some drawings, or how my eyes would react if I was scared or something. But also I think drawing from life, from reference, even redrawing from pictures, emotions is a great exercise for that. Just so you know what emotions, how to show emotions in a character in a drawing. So I wish I could do more live drawing, because it's very helpful. Even when you then draw from your head, it's the most important thing to do the live drawing, because you get to know the shading, the proportions, everything. Live drawing is everything.
you're also not only the illustrator, you're an author of
Yes.
many of the books. And how did this story start? Did you study it in the university or?
Some of them, yes, I started as a university project, um, and they always start from the drawing. So I
Mm.
did this book all about cats. For example, I did it at my when I did my master's degree. It was my master's project, and I did it because I like drawing cats, basically. And I was looking for, for an excuse to basically draw lots of cats in different positions, doing many different things, and to be able to experiment with media, because I did lots of collage there, lots of expressive painting and mixing techniques. But it also started with just drawing, a cat. And I really wanted to show this kind of, yeah, just make a book about it. So yeah, all about cats was that. Um, there was a book that I did at university also that was published then in Italy. It was Bad Breath Lion. And that also started just from a drawing of a lion.
Mm.
And it's always a character that I like this character. I want to, I want him to have a story. But I have other ideas that I never worked on because I don't have enough time, or they're just stuck in my sketchbook, and I would like to work on them and bring them to life. But it's always just this first character drawing.
But how do you start it from the character, from the drawing? Okay, you have a tiger, very cute, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
some funny one. And then how do you make up a story out of it? Because for me, it's not obvious.
I don't know. It just happens.
So
This idea just.
there's no rules on how to write a story or.
Oh, you mean rules, like when you start and you want to write a story?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, uh, I'm not the best at it because I'm more illustrator than a writer, I would say. And because I do picture books, they are slightly different to being a writer, because it starts with the drawing and with idea.
Yeah, but
It's very little text.
Yeah, but
Um,
there's a storytelling. So
you mean
something
the
happens with the
page?
character. So you
Yes.
have an idea. Every of your books,
Mm-hmm.
there is a story inside the book. I understand that there is not a lot of text, but we
Yes.
don't need text every time. So,
Mm-hmm.
but there is storytelling. Something
Yes.
happens with this
Mm-hmm.
character. How do you make this story?
How to make the story
Yeah, yeah.
work? Yes.
How do you make this story?
How do
How
I
you,
make this story? Okay. Um, I, for example, I had this lion that was roaring very loud.
Mhm.
Um, and I started to think, what's going on? Why is he roaring? And then I did draw little animals running away. And I had this thought, come on, they are not running away. It just came to me because he's roaring so loudly. They're running away because his breath is so bad. And from that, okay, and from that, I started to think, what happens next? What do you do when you have a problem like that? You need to brush your teeth. So that can be a good idea, to actually make a book about brushing your teeth. And then, you have a certain number of pages that you have to fit your story to. So you have 32 pages that you can fit generally, most picture books are 32 pages. So I didn't prepare myself with that, but I'm going to show you and explain to you.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting.
So you do something like
Mhm.
that, and these are your spreads, basically. And you make, 16 of this, and you fit your story to it. So, for example, I have idea of lion roaring, and then I have to make the end that he's brushing his teeth. So I'm drawing for example, here, that he has a bad breath, and here I'm drawing the ending of this story.
Mm.
And then I'm trying to plan what can happen in between. And I'm starting to think what led him to go to brush his teeth. Okay, so he went to the dentist, but what happened for him to go to the dentist? And then I fit all these ideas onto these little boxes on the page so I can plan the whole book. And I know, I know the plot, I know the pace of the story, and that's how it kind of comes to life. Yeah.
Thank you
Is
so much
that,
for sharing.
yeah.
It's super
Okay.
interesting and very helpful, actually. And it's so amazing for me that everything starts not from the idea of the plot, but from the drawing. It's really amazing, I think. Like you
I'm
think like an
sure,
illustrator.
yes, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's different with
Yeah.
writers that just write books, but because I think visually, it's just more natural to make drawing and then think like this. When I start creating this book, I think about what's going to be on each page rather than, the text.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super helpful because once a few years ago I was asked if I want to create a book with
Mm-hmm.
illustrations and a little of text, and I was just thinking, okay, but what story I would love to tell? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any story that I want to share because I'm not in a children's illustrator at all. And for me, it was very hard to decide. And this is one of the there were many other things that were hard for me because it needs skills that I don't have at the moment. But
Mm-hmm.
this block on story, if I knew that I can start with the sketch like your, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a very nice approach that you can start to draw a character and then decide what is going on with them instead of
Mm-hmm.
thinking of the big idea of the big story and then trying to illustrate it. It's very
Mm-hmm.
interesting that you can start creating from the picture, from the
Yeah.
illustration.
Yes, it's and this technique of finding, of making this little, you can make loads of them because, of course, you're not gonna get it right at the first time, but from the beginning. But it's a great help to, so what happens in the story, and also if the story runs smoothly and the illustrations work well, because you can't have the whole book full of, similar illustrations. You need it has to be dynamic. So when you have a double page spread, usually the next page is going to be just spot illustrations or a single page, because it would be too busy. Yeah. There are
uh,
lots of books that tell about how to illustrate children's books, and I recommend them to anyone who wants to do illustrations. And our professor back in Cambridge at university um, wrote many of them, and they're really great, research, and they're fantastic. Yeah.
can you please name them?
uh,
A couple of them.
yeah, it was I think how to become a children's, but I'm just gonna, I didn't prepare.
Don't worry.
No, I did prepare, but we are kind of between the houses at the moment, and lots of my stuff is still in the basement because in the boxes.
Mhm. And what are your main tips to someone who is just starting in children's illustration? Uh, as I understand,
Mm,
as you mentioned, the character, it's really important also to make
mhm,
these spreads to compose, to think on the plot. Or
mhm. Um, well, I think for a children's book, you need to be good at drawing, basically. At the, there's a, and you have to enjoy what you do. Um, I think it's very important to actually do it with pleasure and not like start drawing and, oh, I hate this. I wish I could draw something else, because it's going to show that, it's not going to be good. But I think you can't really be a good children's book illustrator when you're a bad illustrator in general, when when your work is not good, or you just, yeah.
yeah,
I know it
definitely.
happens. I know it happens, but it never ends well. Okay.
Yeah, definitely needs skill because, for example,
Yes.
drawing patterns, in my case, it's one skill, but drawing in children's illustration, you need to have the different stages with the characters and everything. With the
Yes,
scenes, it's a totally different thing.
yes, yeah. I mean, there are different ways of, illustrating books, and you don't have to be great at everything. But you need to have a quality that's going to attract publishers and children and parents who are actually buying the books. So even if you're not great at drawing, for example, I don't know, architecture, you don't have to draw great architecture, but if you have other quality in your work, you can base it on on what you can do. And I remember there's this fantastic illustrator, Beatrice. I can't say it because it's Italian name. Beatrice Alemania, yeah, and she's fantastic. And we had a talk with her once back at university, and she said that make make the things that you can't do, make them as your strongest things. So for example, if you're bad at drawing perspective, draw it the way you can draw it and make it as your strength. um so yeah.
Yeah, it's a good advice. Um,
Also, I think your work should be unique, so it's not so that the people look at your work and they know it's yours. Because it's easy to copy someone, but it's not good work when you copy stuff. So I think being unique and doing your own stuff is important.
thank you. Another block of questions is about how to publish a book. What steps did you take to get your first children's book published?
Yes, I built a portfolio that was very bad at the time. I think
But you did it.
when I look back at it, yes. And I just sent emails to everyone. Um, I was basically, I was so focused on the fact that I want to be a children's book illustrator that I was just sending, I don't know, 20 emails a day to every publisher in the UK and in Poland, uh, and there's this very good, I don't know if they still publish it, but at the time there was a writers and illustrators yearbook where they published all the addresses of all the publishers from children's section from the whole world, and also the submission guidelines and stuff like that, so you could approach publishers from all over the world. And that was great help because I looked through yearbook and I contacted everyone I could find there, and I found an agent. I signed to an agent when I finished my BA, I think, yeah. And that also helped me to get my first projects there.
So you were working together with the agent who
Mm-hmm.
contacted the publishing houses, right?
Yes. But also I was free to work on my own and to find my own clients. Um, so yeah, I was finding my own. I think my first, I'm not sure if my first picture book, the first picture book that I have written was the one about Bad Breath Lion. But then I got book project through my agent that was I can't remember the title now, it's horrible. But
Okay.
it actually won an award at the Shanghai Book Fair. Yeah, so
And
that,
how did you
that was
find
quite.
how did you find the agent? It's also very interesting because it's not obvious how to find an agent, how to choose the good
um,
one, how to
they were
collaborate with
also,
them.
I think they were also in the yearbook at the time. But also, you know, when you Google children's book illustrator agency, there's lots of
Ah,
them. And yeah, so it's good idea to approach a few different agencies and yeah,
is it
and try.
UK based agency?
Yes, but I am with different agent right now, but it's a UK based agent. I'm with Bright at the moment, and I'm very happy.
You work at the same time with different agencies.
No, no, I'm not with the agency that I
Ah,
started with.
ah, you changed.
So
Okay.
yes, yeah, I changed agencies, but you know, at the beginning, I was signed with another agent, also from the UK, and I was living in the UK at the time.
Mhm.
So yes.
Can you maybe give some tips? What should beginner illustrators pay attention on when they are contacting the agency? How to choose the agency? What should you think
Mm,
about?
well, that's a tough one because you don't know you don't know until you try the agent. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to, you know, name anyone or
Of
anything, but
course.
you know, everyone's work is different and it's going to work differently in a different market. So I found the agent that I'm happy with at the moment, and they find me work that I like doing, and I'm happy with them. But I had some agencies in the past that I wasn't, for example, I wasn't getting any work from them, or I was going the work that I wasn't really enjoying because it was mostly educational stuff, and it wasn't very well paid, and you know. But I tried so far three agencies. That's the third one that I'm with at the moment, and you know, I'm finally happy. And but also, you know, because it's a process, it might be that my work changed up until now, and the reason that I wasn't happy with the previous agents wasn't really in them, but was, you know, in the way I worked in the past.
And if you talk about the payments, how does how it works? I mean that there can be royalties or a flat payment, and I received sometimes the offers with only flat payment without any royalties at all for books. And is
Yeah,
it a popular
very,
situation nowadays? Can you
it's
share with?
you know, it varies greatly because you get projects that are just flat payment and you sell the copyright and that's it. And we were always advised not to do that during university. We were always told not to do that because once you sell the copyright to your work, the publisher can do anything. But in the reality, when you start, when you're a beginning illustrator and you're really desperate to get your work published, you agree even to the contracts that are not necessarily the best for you. And the best option is when you sign a contract that you get a flat fee for your work and then you get royalties against the flat fee that you got. So when the royalties pay off the flat fee that you already received, you start earning from selling the book. So that's the most common and the most acceptable, I think, way of earning from the book.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what is the most common range in royalties?
Um, that can also vary a lot because I had, you know, publishers who paid like 3% royalties, and I had those who pay 9%. But generally, it's somewhere in between. Yeah,
Between
around 6, 7. Around 6, 7 is the most common one, I would say. But I'm not the best with contracts.
no, I think that
That's why I have an agent.
I think that these numbers can be very helpful for people who don't have any experience,
Yeah,
and you're just starting and you don't know at all how
I
much it
know,
can
but
be.
you know, even after so many years of working in the industry, uh, it's still very difficult for me to price my work, and and to deal with contracts. That's why I have an agent who's actually looking after my contracts. They make sure that I earn enough money, and it's a really great help because they can you can ask them what they think about this offer. Would they accept it, or would they not accept it, if they think the client pays enough, or and Bright is really good at it. I'm really happy with the advice that I get in that case, because it's publishers offers vary so much that you can it's absolutely it's like two different worlds. When some people when you get some offers, and then 2 days later you get completely different offer, and it's, come on, how is this even possible? So yeah,
Mhm.
it's difficult, but I would say 6-7% is the and for the there are also royalties that you receive from international sales. So for example, if a book you wrote or illustrated, the publisher sells right to another country, it's always in the contract that you get percent from the sales. They get flat fee for selling, for example, to Italy. They always get flat fee, and you should get percentage from this. And some publishers offer as little as 10%. I think the good the good payment is 50%, where you get 50, and the publisher get 50% for selling the rights.
Mhm. Thank you very much for sharing this. And how is your work? How does your work with agencies organized? For example, they write you an email, "Hey, Monica, we have a new client. We can offer from the publishing house story about a fox who likes to jump. I don't know. Do you want to illustrate it, or how often do they contact you? And then you say
Yes,
yes or no.
exactly as you said. You just see, I get an email saying that there's a client interested in working with me, and they usually give me a quick, short brief, not not the very specific one, but short brief, the schedule, because that's the important thing, because my my um schedule, yes,
Yes, schedule.
can get can get is the deadline is the most important thing that I need to know about the project. Is basically the deadline and the fee, because then I know if I can start to consider it at all. So these are the things that that I receive in an email like this. And then yes, if if the fee is okay and I can fit it in my schedule, then I say yes, and then I get more details. Yeah.
And next, do you communicate with the client by yourself, or together with the agency, or only they communicate with the client? How does
Until I guess until the contract is signed, I communicate with an agency, and once I have a contract with the publisher, I then I'm contacted directly by publisher to give me the exact brief, and I send all the sketches and all the work directly to the publisher. But agency is great because in negotiating deadlines and prices, it's kind of like safety pillow for me. So I don't have to do the difficult stuff myself.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And what about the deadlines? How much time do you need to create a children book like yours, the standard one?
Well, for example, I would need about a month, at least a month, to do the sketches. So that's a month for that, and about 3 months to do the color illustrations, around 3 months. But I always say that, and I always take longer. so, so maybe more.
I suppose it depends also on the negotiation of the sketches and
Yes,
how
it does.
much.
That's true. Yes, how much changes there are. Yes, it does.
What is the most challenging part for you in creating the book, in working with publishing houses?
Okay, it's making adjustments and changes to the illustrations. That can be so frustrating because you can get, I get very emotional about the work that I create. When I draw it, I spend time, I give my heart to it. And then, and then when I hear that, oh, I have to change this and that and that, it's kind of like, I take
Why?
it personally. I know I
Yeah.
shouldn't, but I take it personally. So it's difficult because you have to kind of, you have to let it go and say, okay, it doesn't matter. It's not my baby. It's just a drawing. And yeah, but that can be a bit frustrating, especially when you do something, when you do sketches, and then they get accepted, and you go on to working on finals, and then you get asked to change the final artwork, which is so much more difficult and should never happen really, because sometimes it's not possible to change the artwork. You just have to do it from the scratch again. So that's also one of the things that I would advise beginning illustrators to look into, to agree with the with publisher how many changes to the actual artwork you agree to do. Because for example, you make 2 changes to sketches. I mean, you make changes, then you send amended sketches to the publisher, and they want another amend. Okay, you can still make it if it's not a lot of work. But once you do the final artwork, you have to make sure that they will not ask you to do it again. Yeah. So only, so you can make sure that when it's the final artwork, you only make small changes.
And what is the best moment
Uh,
when
the
you're
best
working
moment?
when you're working on the book?
Mm, well, it's sending the final artwork and getting an email, we love it. That's the best part, when the publisher accepts your work and they like it from, you send it and there's no problem. That's just so, it's like Christmas, or something. That's amazing. Yeah, that's the best part. And when you receive your
Yeah.
print copies of the artwork. Yeah.
Do you remember the first book when it was published and you received a box with it or a parcel, or maybe you saw it on the shelf in the shop?
I remember I saw it in Bologna actually, because it was
Oh.
published with in Italy, and I saw it in a bookshop in Bologna. So I was so excited, and it was children's book fair in Bologna, and I went
Yeah.
there just to visit. And I saw it. It was in, I don't know, 3 bookshops there. So I was very excited about that. It was it felt amazing. Yeah.
Thank you very much for answering in so many details for all my questions. It was really very helpful. The last question, maybe what advice would you give to someone who just starting out their artistic journey, or maybe what would you say to yourself when you were at the beginning of your career?
I would
What advice would you?
draw more. Yes, I would say to myself, I would say draw more. Basically, draw as much as you can and wherever you can. I wish I could draw more at the moment in my free time, but I have 2 little children, and it's very difficult to actually go on holidays and draw when I'm with them. But just draw as much as you can, basically, and educate yourself in drawing as much as you can. take, drawing classes. It doesn't really matter if it's life drawing or architecture. It's going to help you, and because the way you see, the way you observe the world, and it's very important, I think. And also believe in your work. I think it's so important to believe in your work, because there's so many amazing artists that just hide their artwork and they don't show it to anyone. And I think it's really important to just believe in your own work and enjoy what you do.
Thank you so much. For me, it's such a big pleasure to talk with you, and I feel that just kind of kindness and love that you shine with it, and we
Thank you
definitely
so
can
much.
see we definitely can see it in your illustrations. So if you're not subscribed to Monica, please check out her Instagram, because there are a lot of beautiful illustrations, and your books just full of love, which I feel when I talk with you. And thank you for sharing this love with the world and with children.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It was a great experience and something completely new, outside my comfort zone. Totally,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.